you check the children. Your little Mesa now.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Jaime Fuego.
And we are here to do the worst horror movies of 2019. So we are going to go ahead and get this bad boy started. Now we are going to do our bottom 10, I guess you could say. And then we did have some alternates, so we'll get to those after the fact. We'll just rifle through those really quickly.
What a group to take a gander at.
Indeed. So I'll tell you what, my number 10, Fuego, well, let's do this. For editing purposes, by the way, guys, This one's going to be edited by our good friend CP. CP, wave hello. That's right.
We love you, CP.
Thank you very much for taking the time to do this for us. But
show business every Monday evening, provided there is no conflicts.
Son of a bitch.
9 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Relax. We'll put a link or some Good Lord. Nonetheless, let's get into our number 10 worst movie of 2019. So my number 10 is actually going to be Ma. Now, this was one... Yep.
I didn't hate this movie.
Well, okay. Can I say my reasons before you jump in and tell me I'm wrong? We just started. Good Lord. So, Octavia Spencer starring, and yes, this wasn't necessarily the worst horror movie of all time. The problem was, it was predictable, it wasn't interesting like I was hoping it would be, and while Octavia might have done well, the rest of the movie around her floundered. It was not what I was hoping it would be. It wasn't interesting. It wasn't unique. It was just by the numbers, and nothing really surprised me about it. And my alternates, when I get to them, you might say, really? Those you enjoyed more than Ma? And I will say, take this opportunity to say that I kind of based both of these lists on the movies that I would be more apt to watch again. So yeah, my number 10 is going to be Ma.
Yeah, Ma was weird in the fact that I dug her performance, but not really anything else. And like the sister subplot was especially weird for me, and I just had trouble, with that one. But my number 10 is actually Jim Jarmusch. He is a terrific director.
CP, by the way, get ready for the preamble, the red carpet that gets rolled out before Fuego actually says the movie itself.
The Dead Don't Die. And The Dead Don't Die was one of the most disappointing movies for me, especially because of the cast that was involved. Bill Murray, Adam Driver, various other amazing performers, and yet, as far as a zombie movie goes, I thought he was going to have interesting commentary. I thought it was going to be, I mean, it was quirky to a degree, but just... I don't know. That's one that you and I went and saw in theaters together. We actually paid to see it because it was on a limited release. Didn't have a critical screening or anything of that nature. And it was just, as far as zombie movies, a big-time bummer. When I saw everybody who was cast in this and the fact that Jim was doing it, I thought it was going to be significantly superior to the boring product that was put before us. So there you go.
Yeah, and I have thoughts on this too, but I'm going to reserve those thoughts for now.
Who are you?
Yes, I am. So I guess that's going to take us to number 9. My number 9 is going to be another theatrical release. Both of my lists are a healthy mixture of theatrical and VOD releases. The Prodigy is my number 9. This one is just a fail at most turns. There were two movies that looked very similar going into this year, The Prodigy and The Hole in the Ground. And I watched them both, and I think I watched them both with Marcia, or did I watch Hole in the Ground with you?
You watched Hole in the Ground with me, and Hole in the Ground is significantly superior.
Significantly better. No. Significantly better, and it just sort of showed how bad The Prodigy was in comparison. And, everything that was scary about The Prodigy, quote unquote, was in the trailer, and it was just a really substandard horror movie by today's standards. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even by today's standards, I should say.
My number 9 is definitely the fact that 3 from Hell was a big...
We're going to be stepping on each other all over these lists.
Big misstep from Rob Zombie. The Devil's Rejects is, I dare say, a masterpiece, and it's really, really well done, and you don't You don't
There's an
necessarily.
argument.
you
I
don't
mean,
necessarily
masterpiece
sympathize.
is a bit far, but
Okay.
it's a Rob Zombie masterpiece.
I mean, as far as well, it's his best film aside from
Agreed.
Lords of Salem. You know.
Okay.
Therein lies
Simmer
the
down
difference.
now.
Therein
Simmer
lies
down
the
now.
difference. But
Don't make me show you the door early.
But Three from Hell was massively disappointing, and it kind of discredited the brilliance of Devil's Rejects. So that is the biggest problem with this movie, is that I felt like the narrative ended in a very compelling and cathartic fashion, and here it's like, oh, we're gonna do like a post story, and it's really kind of what I feel about
Post-its.
like the new Star Wars trilogy. But that's another argument for a different day and time. And I know there was a reversion with everything in House of a Thousand Corpses that there was some character motivations that returned and so on and so forth. But I liked the gritty ending and the fact that there was no sympathy for these characters that we got in Devil's Rejects, and I felt like Three from Hell tried to make them more anti-heroes than anything else. And not only that, it was all the color correction, the score, everything was just too overdone, and I really, really did not like this movie. Personally, I have a lot of friends who loved it, and I will give them their credit, and art is subjective, obviously, so I will leave it at that. But Three from Hell, that makes my 10 worst. So.
And I will reserve my thoughts for that one as well, because that might remain on my list too. Now, the next one I'm going to go to is a VOD release for the year.
Okay.
Now, this is one that I actually got my hopes up, maybe specifically for the title itself, because I'm one of the few people that likes this Halloween candy. This is Candy Corn. Now, this movie, I know, there's actually going to be a few on our lists, respectively, that neither of us have seen, but that make appearances. Candy Corn is one that deserves to be on the worst of list, unfortunately, because I was pulling for this movie when I was watching it. It is a slasher movie that takes place, that's trying to create its own Halloween killer and trying to imbue a sort of supernatural, superstitious aspect to it, where it's creating a killer that people are scared of. Unfortunately, it failed. It failed in its ultimate storytelling. It failed in the reveal at the end. It tried to pull a Shyamalanian twist at the end, and it just didn't work for me. I think if you're trying to, it was full of things that had been done before and better, and they tried to sort of cram a couple of those things together to not excuse the story, but to explain the story. It wasn't a bad attempt. I get what they were going for, but the problem is all the pieces didn't make the whole better in this particular instance. There was even some sound issues, some sound design issues, and overall the storytelling was just a little muddled. And it's like they were going somewhere good, but they just kept stepping on their D, so to speak. So Candy Corn is going to be my number 8.
Yeah, that's too bad. I have seen it on some lists and stuff, so I can't say anything beyond that regrettably. But Greta is the next one that is on my list, and this is actually heralded by some critics, and I can't seem to understand why, but it just reinforces the fact that everything is subjective. And oh boy, we have Chloe Grace Moretz. So she has some interactions with this older woman that she sympathizes with in the film, and then she in turn gets locked in a box by this woman, and it's not full-on torture, but
locked
it's
in a box.
Yeah, it's nasty regardless, but performances are not compelling, and I don't know, Chloe's friend who comes and tries to salvage her, all of the different script writing issues and stuff. This is a movie that a lot of people seem to enjoy, but I personally do not. I feel like the acting is poor. I feel like the scripting is very mundane and just uninteresting. And yeah, I mean, I love films shot in New York, so I guess I will say that. They're always pretty. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, this is close enough
this is
to
one
my
that we both
placement.
watched.
Yes, this is close. Well, this is on my list as well. And this is close enough to my placement where I'll go ahead and shift it to my number 7 as well.
Okay, please do, because I mean, some further context.
I agree with you. I think it was ridiculously done. The idea isn't bad.
No, it's
but
a great concept.
if it was actually a 2-person job where it was an old woman and like a young man, you know, luring women in to kill and stuff, as opposed to an old woman that is somehow overpowering female after young woman after young woman.
Yeah.
It's not believable. By the end of it, you're like, no, Chloe, fight back and you'll win. Like, give her one elbow and you're done. Like,
all you need.
it's so frustrating. I don't like movies that are frustrating because of the conveniences that you've set up to excuse your storyline.
And it was frustrating because of the fact that both of these women are great actors and they do solid work in this, you know, and it's well shot.
Well, enough.
But
Dealing with the material they had to deal with.
But the story, man, is the thing that kills this film. It's poorly written. It's poorly written.
That's fair.
You know?
I agree. So hey, we're in agreement. I mean, it was higher on my list, but I'll put it in my 7, even though it's your 8.
Oh, I appreciate it.
So I don't know. You might hit all of mine before me, you son of a beast.
And now actually, I know there's one in particular that still has to me more than I know you didn't watch.
Okay, all right. So what's your
trash.
7, Fuego?
It's my worst of the year. So my 7 is going to be The Fanatic.
I can't talk too long. I gotta poo.
He is an obsessive fan of this particular actor who is Devon Sawa, and I am stoked
Can't
to see...
talk, gotta poo.
Yeah, exactly. I'm stoked to see Devon Sawa doing stuff again. He was in the Escape Plan, I want to say, sequel. You know, I mean...
Oh, was it?
Hey, he's getting some work, which is cool, man.
Bring him back for more Final Destination or Idle Hands 2.
Amen. The original Final Destination, I say Little Giants, I'm sorry. And, you know, also Casper. I mean, he was great in the 90s. He was an actor that I really enjoyed the hell out of. But,
was he Casper?
He was Casper before the death transformation.
Okay.
Yeah, but where we're at right now, Travolta, and this is a film, shout out CP, that we talked about on Show Business. It was the lowest debut of Travolta's career. It's not as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be.
Dude, that
it's
scene where Devon
bad.
Sawa starts playing the rock music from the director,
Limp Bizkit,
and says, "Yo,
He's
this
like,
was my jam back in the day."
I love this stuff.
That in and of itself,
that's where you know,
should shoot it up to most lists of anyone. Like, this is one I purposely avoided because I knew it would make my list, and I'm like, everyone knows that's a joke at this point. I don't need to waste a spot on it.
No, it's a pretty terrible movie.
I'm glad you wasted a spot on it.
No, I did. I mean,
gives me a chance to still shit on it.
I mean, Devon Sawa's good in it. John Travolta, the weird character he plays, I mean, he plays the character, I guess you can say. But yeah, the script is awful, and it's not very intriguing and stuff like that. So yeah, it definitely deserves to be in the worst films of the year, unfortunately, as far as horror goes. So.
My number 6 is going to be Doom Annihilation.
Really?
Yeah, now...
I liked it a lot, actually.
A lot?
Well, okay.
A lot?
I liked it. I liked it, is what I will say.
That's your boy Fuego, guys. He liked Doom Annihilation a lot. Here's why I didn't like it. And I will say it was better than I thought it would be.
This was better than the Carl Urban The Rock Doom.
No.
Yes,
no,
it totally was.
No,
man, it was.
No, I disagree with that. No, I disagree with that because it was mostly humans again. It's not even as many creatures as we got in the Doom one. Yeah.
I thought we got a little bit more in this one.
No, but it was still just zombies. There weren't more creatures.
Yeah, that's true.
There was more Hell Knights. There was one Hell Knight, and that was it. And then it was mostly humans otherwise.
Yeah, after that fact, yeah, it was.
And so that's not what I watch a Doom movie for. Yeah. I watch a Doom movie for the creatures, and this was a big disappointment. The acting, by all means, wasn't anything to write home about.
The acting was absolutely awful.
So again, there's not, to me, there's not much to write home about. And the effects, the story, all of it, like, it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it was still worse than all of these other movies that I watched. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would watch the rest more than I would rewatch Doom Annihilation.
I just want to play more Doom. I mean, that's really...
We're getting that. We're getting it, Fuego. It's okay. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to.
Don't excuse movies because of that.
Yeah. I played Doom on the SNES back in the day, man. I mean, come on now.
Hey, look, you're talking to an old school Doomer too.
Yeah.
I'm Doom guy alpha.
At my number 6 is The Prodigy, which we talked about already. This was as generically evil child as could be. I honestly hated this movie when we walked out of it that night.
It was really bad.
It was so crappy, and then the twist in the fact of the transference of the spirit of this one older killer into this child, blah blah blah. It was so.
It was Charles Lee Ray, but way less interesting.
Dude, it was so arduously unoriginal, this film, and it was banking so much on the fact that, and I loved seeing the Orion at the beginning, and I got the nostalgia feel and stuff, and I was like, oh, great sci-fi and horror that I've watched when I was a kid in the 80s, but this movie sucks, man. It's really, really crappy, and the fact that they stole the makeup from American Horror Story with him, it was just like, what in the hell are we trying to do here?
So that's going to lead me to my number 5, Hoax. Now, this was a Dread Presents movie, and
Which you weren't there for it,
I
but
wasn't
we
there for
presented it.
I was happy to not present this Dread
Present
Presents
that.
movie. This was a Bigfoot movie that was straight to VOD that ends up not being a Bigfoot movie until the end when it's like, but wait, we're actually a Bigfoot movie. And it was just stupid. It was a waste of time. It was unengaging characters, no good effects, no music to speak of, but that's okay because it is meant to be a found footage kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
So I understand that, but overall, even for found footage movies, this was just a bummer. And it's a weird one to include on the list because not many people are going to know about it. It was a straight to VOD one, but
It's why I didn't put Assassinate on this list, because that would have been one of my worst.
well, yeah, Hoax, I couldn't help it. Like, there were others, and I'll talk about the others, but, you know, this was just bad enough that I just had to include it. Your number 5.
My number 5 is going to be the film that I watched after you, since I was fighting off a nasty flu bug about a week or so ago, but it's Black Christmas, and it is the 3rd version of Black Christmas, and that, you know, since I didn't get to review this movie, I have a slight moment to contend the fact that this was always intended to be a PG-13 movie.
No, it was not.
100%.
You are 100% wrong.
And my
Oh,
argument,
dude,
my argument
get
for
your
that,
finger out of my face.
my argument for that, I love it.
Because, bro, you are so
argument,
wrong.
My argument for that is the Black Blood. The Black Blood, Black Blood, 100%. Like,
Dude,
they
you
will
didn't
try
notice the hard cuts around the actual effects?
A few.
A
But those
few?
Oh, hold up, though. Let me put my whole point forward. So there is a thing in Hollywood
just
where
digging your own
the MPAA will allow excessive amounts of fluids from injuries if it's not red. So if it's black, if it's green, if it's purple, whatever the hell. So I contend, and this is just my suspicions, but I contend that this movie, from script to screen, was always intended to be R-rated.
Nope.
And because of that Black Blood, they submitted their, hopefully, like, I don't know, Happy Death Day to You, whatever-ish, insidious PG-13 cut, and still got an R rating. And then, in turn, got, like, they had to make more cuts, and they had to trim more of the kills because they still had to, they were adamant from the get-go about a PG-13 rating, so they trimmed the kills more. That's my theory.
I think that this betrays your lack of filmmaking knowledge, unfortunately.
Really? Because I know the cuts were hard, but they submitted a cut and then in turn had to go back and cut that even more.
No.
Hence those jump cuts on like
the
girl early on.
It was meant
like,
to be R.
Oh, dude, Black Blood though.
That doesn't matter.
Black
it was
Blood,
still meant to
Black
be
Blood
R.
matters a hell of a lot.
Oh my god.
It matters a hell of a lot.
Oh.
They were trying to PG-13 this
Ooh,
from
I didn't know
the
that we were going to get my dander up like
Oh,
this.
they were trying to PG-13 this
All right,
from
well,
the get-go, bro.
No.
That's
no,
my
they were doing it
estimation.
editing-wise, not purposefully storytelling-wise.
Oh, the editing came
wrong.
after the fact.
Oh, man.
Hey, we will playfully disagree.
CP, show your face as to what you think about Fuego's argument.
I talked about this on Show Business.
It's going to be one of
and
these.
I
It's going to
got
be
some-
like,
I talked about this on Show Business with Lindsay and CP, so I don't know. They gave some credence to my theory.
No.
My theory remains. You can't convince me. They were always hoping for a PG-13 with this.
nope.
Yeah.
No.
Monies, man.
No way.
Monies.
No way.
Monies.
No way.
Anyway, Black Christmas sucks, by the way.
So my number 4 was Critters Attack. Now this one was a straight-to-VOD sequel to the series that is one of my favorites, quite honestly. It's one of the creature movies that I first saw growing up. Critters 1, Critters 2 especially. I love those movies, and I had such high hopes for the new Critters properties we were getting this year. We got 2 of them. We got one 8-episode series that was really an hour and 20-minute movie split into 8 episodes.
Thank you, Shudder.
And then Critters Attack, which had Dee Wallace, but not even as her same character from the first Critters movie.
Yeah, it was weird they never confirmed that was her
Nope.
or not. It was just kind of...
It was stupid.
And
They
she
called
knew
her a
all
completely
of-
different name, so it wasn't her. So it was so dumb. Even the Critters effects, even though they were better than in the Shudder series, they were still really bad. It wasn't worth the time. It wasn't worth the energy. It was just Critters Attack was really, really bad. For Critters fans, for non-Critters fans, the only thing that was good about it was it had the girl from I'll Take Your Dead in it.
Yeah, and she's actually good in it. I mean, she's great in everything I've seen her in, which is only 2 films at this particular point, but, you know, nonetheless, I dare to say it, but I had more fun with the stupid Shudder show. I did.
They were both so bad.
They were
I can't
both
say I had
awful,
fun with
you know,
either one of them.
But I mean, there was like a more lighthearted tone in the Shudder series as opposed to, you know, this is on my list too. So, you know, it's just probably better since it's only one pick off. You know, Critters Attack is my number 3 worst of the year. This movie was just excruciatingly bad in the fact that like the whole subplot of the girl and going back to school and everything was just so tamely forced in for no real reason. We don't need subplots of this nature, you know? It's monsters. It's like little creature nasties that we're trying to kill that are intending to kill us. You don't need to try to fashion other aspects for storytelling purposes. And I don't know. Dee Wallace is bad. The entirety of the cast, aside from our girl from I'll Take Your Dead, which is one of the best movies I saw this year as far as horror goes, you know. So my number 4, I just talked about my number 3, so we will obviously skip that, but my number 4 is the Banana Splits movie. The Banana Splits movie is sheer bonkers ridiculousness. The gore almost like saved it from being on this list, but I don't know. The other thing I almost put on this list was one of his best of, so I purposefully did not put Godzilla on there because I am not a big fan of that Godzilla King of the Monsters, but nonetheless, the Banana Splits, it's on here because of the acting. You know, the acting is so purposefully hammy and redonkulously stupid in this film, and there's lots of rumors going around that this was actually originally like some of the concept stuff for the Five Nights at Freddy's film that has just bounced around and they can't seem to, you know, figure out when they're going to film it. But yeah, gore aside, the interaction with the family and the infidelity of the father and all this other silliness, I just hated all the people in this movie, so I think that's really what it's going to boil down to, despite the fact that some of the set design was okay, but and I mean compelling kills and coolness in that regard, but the story is just it's trash. So sorry. Anyway.
All right, well, you've killed my entire top 3, so...
I'm sorry, man. I wasn't trying to.
So, number 3 for me is The Dead Don't Die. I hated this movie. I thought it was terrible. You know, I don't like what's-his-nuts, Adam. What is...
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver.
I think he's a great actor, actually.
Well, all right.
Marriage Story, man.
All right, well, it's not about you. It's what I'm saying right now.
I love you, man.
So, I don't like him. I thought the Bill Murray of it all was a completely wasted opportunity. I think that this was just a self-congratulatory masturbation fest for comedy in a horror scenario. It was garbage. It wasn't funny. It was just, oh, let's see what I can get away with as a director almost. And obviously that's not what he was really thinking, but I just hated it. It was self-indulgent. It wasn't funny. It wasn't amusing. It wasn't clever storytelling. It was just straight up garbage. The Dead Don't Die is not worth it, and I wish it was DOA.
I'm so with you because of the fact that Jim Jarmusch, I mean, once again, you know, Coffee, Cigarettes, Left Alive, stuff like that. He's a very talented director, and he's a great musician too. You know, he's scored a lot of his films. He's worked on music previously, but this one was almost like, hey, can I get all of my friends to be in my movie even though the script sucks? So yeah, since there was already discussion about my number 3, which was Critters Attack as well, you know, significantly disappointing film in my personal regard. The fact that Dee Wallace was coming back, I was stoked for that one, so much more so than the Dueling project that was coming to Shudder. But nonetheless, for whatever reason, the goofy stupidness of like the boy being a critter and all that, I was more amused by just the inane ridiculousness of that than I was her return in this feature film, and even the girl from I'll Take Your Dead. So, you know, critters attack, yeah, it was pretty much boredom status, and I would be, if I was going to rewatch either of them, I would legitimately rewatch the stupid one that had, yeah, I don't know, lots of comedians and stupid people in it. So anyway,
Okay.
you're number 2, sir.
So number 2 for me, the previously mentioned Three from Hell. I hated this movie, and
Same.
you mentioned the color correction issues. Apparently we might be the only ones that had to deal with that, because a lot of the people that commented after the fact said that they didn't have to deal with those oversaturation issues that we had to deal with. But even outside of that, the movie was trash. The story was trash. Like you said, he was trying to make the Three from Hell, or the new Three from Hell, an anti-hero group, and they're not. They're cold-blooded killers. They were never good for being an anti-hero group. You know what I mean? So I think it was just an all-around really terrible effort. It felt like 2 movies. The first half
Same.
was, you know, the escape of the Three from Hell, actually the Two from Hell, and then the second half was their trip to Mexico, which could have just as well been its own movie, but the characters aren't interesting enough, and you took the claws away from, you know, the coolest one, Otis. He wasn't nearly as scary. He was goofing and being all, you know, stupid shit humor with the new character and stuff like that. This movie was trash. It made me like House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects less.
Yeah.
While at the same time making me like them more, because I never, ever, 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 ever want to watch this again to have it possibly sully the other 2 in my memory. The first one isn't that great anyway, but Devil's Rejects is so good, and to have this one be as bad as it was, where he's just letting his wife turn loose and being like, it's just stupid. Bad. I really, really disliked Three from Hell this year.
My number 2.
Yeah, you're number 2, sir.
I don't think you have seen my number 2 or my number 1, because they're both absolute garbage.
Which is why my number 3 through 1 were taken by you.
Sorry, man. But The Final Wish. So this is a evil genie thing that has Lin Shaye in it, and it's about this boy who is grown up now, and he is returning to his home, and he has like a former love interest, he has a like scorned friend, so on and so forth. I can't believe that I actually used an A-list to watch this in a theater. It was so poorly performed, from like screenwriting to, you know, every aspect of the performance, nothing compelling whatsoever. I didn't feel genuine chemistry between him and this former girlfriend. The stuff with the, you know, former friend, and it's just bad. But like the shoehorned aspect of, you know, 3 wishes, and every single wish just almost monkey's pawing it, you know, being like some sort of negative repercussion. This movie, it's disappointing, man. You know, it's very much so, and I don't know. I'm glad you didn't see it, if we're gonna keep it brief. So yeah, there we are.
All right, so that leads to my number 1. Again, previously mentioned, but easily the worst horror movie I saw in all of 2019, even having just seen it a couple of weeks ago. Black Christmas 2019. The remake was just abysmal. It, as you said, it felt more like a movie built around a agenda, as opposed to an agenda subtly woven into a movie. The movie itself was terrible. It was clearly an R-rated movie that they hacked to death to make PG-13.
Now,
Clearly, any person of sanity and film knowledge can tell
That says everything about his
that
opinion of
this movie was hacked to death to make it a PG-13 from an R rating. And it was so neutered. So neutered is the best way I can put this movie. The acting wasn't even that great. Imogen Poots.
She's good. She's the only decent
in your
part of
opinion,
it.
she's good. She's not that good, in my opinion.
From Green Room.
Not that good in this movie. She's overdoing it. Everyone is overdoing it. The fact that it starts with a vibrator joke and is followed up with a frickin' Diva Cup joke immediately in the first 5 minutes. It's like, yo, guys, get out. This movie isn't for you. And it's like, well, yeah, I think you told the whole audience to get out because only 4.4 million's worth of dollars saw this movie on opening weekend. And there's a reason, because it was trash. It was the worst horror. That's what it deserves. It is the worst horror movie of 2019 by a long shot.
Yeah, I still contend though that they were plotting a PG-13 film and they submitted a film that got.
I know you contend. We already talked about that.
Okay. I don't know. This movie's pretty bad. Carrie Elways?
Carrie Elways, Yules. I don't know. I've heard it both.
I don't
ways.
know. Yeah. As have I. He hams it up in this. He is totally overdoing it. It's tough for two white guys, white straight males, to talk about this particular film. I must admit,
it's not tough at all. You know, you can take our opinion with a grain of salt if you want.
You can very
but
much.
It's not hard to talk about how bad this movie is.
There is one particular scene in this movie though, where a character who does get killed. Spoilers. You know, he's like, not all of us are like that.
Yeah, one of the two dudes, both of which are made out to be evil.
Yeah, well, he's like
one of the two nice guys.
He's like kind of wavering on evil because he gets aggravated after the performance and stuff. But I mean, I don't know. This movie's off-putting, but it's not for me. And it, as you mentioned, and you know, in the first 5 minutes, it's not for people like us, I guess. Well, and now we are to my number one, which I was regretful about spending $1.75 or whatever the hell it was on Redbox to watch, which was the Demi Moore film, Corporate. This is about as bad as VOD, straight-to-video horror gets, in the fact that I love horror comedies. I adore them. I'm amused by Cannibal Tales. This has both of those going on. This movie is so low budget and so stupid and so unfunny. You know, if you have a horror film that's trying to implement comedy and yet it's not amusing, that's one of the biggest sins that you can see. And this movie it's like The Office if everybody got trapped in a cave on a like little expedition, you know, like kind of a group outing and stuff. And I mean, you see a lot of familiar faces. You see the cab driver from Deadpool. You see Demi Moore, obviously. There's various other people, and it's just, it's horrible. This is like trash filmmaking, and not intentionally, obviously. They were trying to make a very like horror spin on The Office, and it's just, I mean, you know, somebody dies, they are locked away, they need a form of food, and so they start eating the travel guide, and then in turn they move on to other stuff. But this movie is just so ridiculously bad, and I feel bad like hating on movies, but this movie is especially uninteresting, unfunny. I mean, it's not gory or anything either, which I often enjoy in these sort of horror comedies, as if like gore is played for laughs. Don't have that here. So yeah, Demi Moore is still a babe. I guess that's really the only positive I can pull from this, but it's my least favorite horror film of the 100+ I've watched this year. So yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So that's going to do it, you guys. That's going to cover our top 10 least favorite movies of the year. Now we're going to fire through the alternates real quick, Fuego.
Oh, there's a few.
Real quick. I'm saying real quick. So I'm going to do my three real quick. The first is Banana Splits movie, because outside of the gore, the movie is completely worthless. The acting is terrible. Everything is just bad. The gore effects are okay. The second one is Body at Brighton Rock. This was another straight to VOD, and this was a beautiful looking movie because of the foliage and the fact that it takes place in a national park. But as a movie itself, it's super boring. It even flirts with the idea of making it interesting at one point, and then yanks it away from you as well. Not a big fan of that. And then the third one is Velvet Buzzsaw. And I think, in my estimation, two artistic horror movies came out this year, Velvet Buzzsaw and The Perfection. And The Perfection did it right, Velvet Buzzsaw did it wrong. They showed a lot of the interesting stuff in the trailer, and all of the characters I hated, and there was no really satisfying resolution. It was just, I didn't like Velvet Buzzsaw when I was hoping really that I would. So those are my alternates.
Okay, alternates for me would be the Hagazusa, something of that nature. You know,
On Netflix.
yes,
Or Shudder, rather.
Shudder actually, and you know, it is as ploddingly slow-paced as anything I've ever seen. You know, it's a Austrian and German co-production. It's beautifully shot. It's decently acted, but the story is just very ho-hum in my estimation, and sad at times, but still just really not deserving of the hype, and it's gross at times as well. And then the other one would probably be, I guess I'll go to Godzilla, man. I felt like the human characters in that film made me hate the rest of it. Unfortunately, just really disappointed me. I thought there was going to be more of a compelling narrative from the humanistic side in that film, and it's not a film I hated, but it's a film I was like, it would more so go on a disappointed list, you know, because I was really disappointed with that movie. I'm sorry, I see the look on that guy's face.
That's just such a stupid argument going into a Godzilla movie hoping for a human story. In my opinion, because it's going to be on my other list, so fuck you.
I know. I'm sorry, everybody.
Guys, that's going to do it for our top 10 worst movies of the year with some alternates there. Why don't you let us know in the comments down below of the ones that you've seen, which ones did you not like? Are you gonna seek any of these out for any reason? I would love to know, if so, why.
Did you actually like some of them?
Did you like some of them? Yeah. Please
There's
let us know that.
There's a lot of fans of the Prodigy, man.
Lots of discussion in those comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss videos like this going forward. The best way to do that, though, is to click the notification bell, because YouTube picks and chooses. So do that.
It's funny, right?
Thank you very much to our patrons for supporting the channel. We greatly appreciate you guys. You can become a patron in the link in the description box down below, where you can actually select some movies for us to review going forward.
Select them.
Indeed. Until next time, though, thank you very much for watching. Thank you to CP for dealing with this meandering mess. I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, up and Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.